Today we are doing a bit of a deep dive into John Mayer's solo tour amp rig. A lot of the information we are covering today is from the Guitar Magazine Japan March issue. I have the magazine in hand, got it brought all the way from Japan to me in Canada. I've taken scans of all the pages and translated it for you guys so that we can have all the imagery in the right context as to the information these guys learned in this magazine. The magazine will be linked in the description down below if you guys want to check it out and support this magazine, because they did an incredible job having this first-hand experience with John's rig and really doing a gear breakdown of one of Mayer's touring rigs, which we haven't seen since the Battle Studies era. So absolutely incredible that these guys did this. The information will all be linked in the description down below. We're going to take a look first at the Blue Note Tokyo Performance amp rig, because this was a little bit different compared to the rest of the solo tour. And the Blue Note Tokyo Performance, you can kind of consider it a bit of a one-off show that's not directly part of the solo tour. But let's take a deep dive into the Blue Note Tokyo amp rig first, because quite a bit of information we've learned from this magazine article. Now, I absolutely love the shot of John's amp rig that we're looking at here. It's one of the clearest shots of his amps we've ever gotten, all thanks to this magazine. It's just, I still can't believe we have these shots and this information. It seems very unusual that we would even get this, but hey, here we are. So the amp rig that John was using for the Blue Note Tokyo Performance is a little bit different than what we typically see for him using the rest of the solo tour, but we're going to dive into this first here, and I've translated everything, so we're just going to go over it together. I'm going to read the translation. It's a little rough. I'll throw up the Japanese on the screen in case there's anyone who speaks and reads fluent Japanese. They can maybe fill in some of the gaps in the comments down below, which would be really awesome to see. But let's just start diving into the magazine article here. So the first amplifier is John's Dumble Overdrive Special, the 50-watt silver face one that we've seen him using a lot with Dud & Company, and this has been one mainstay on the solo tour that we've seen him using throughout the entire tour. And the magazine says, John Mayer brought 2 amplifiers for this performance in Japan. According to his guitar tech, Jeremy, depending on your mood at that time, you may use 2 at the same time, or you may use only 1. The choice of amplifier was made by the guitar tech on the side of the stage. This is very interesting that he mentions that sometimes they might only be running 1 amplifier or both, kind of depending on their mood. And for each solo tour show, John only plays a little electric guitar. He would only play maybe 1 song being changing. Maybe if you're lucky, you got an electric performance of like Wheel or Gravity. But for the most part, you're really only hearing 1 or 2 songs on electric guitar for the solo tour shows. But right from here, from Jeremy, it sounds like they were experimenting with running 1 amp only or both, which is kind of cool. And John normally always runs all amps on at the same time, all effects in the front of the amplifiers. So the fact that they were experimenting a little bit with just the different amplifiers is a little bit interesting. And I'm not sure if that accounts for the actual solo tour or just this Blue Note Tokyo performance. So keep that in mind as well. But it sounds like it's something they were experimenting with. The article then dives into the Dumble Overdrive Special just a little bit more, saying, first of all, the first one is made by Dumble with 50 watts of output. It's an Overdrive Special. It is said that John owns multiple Dumble amplifiers, but among them, this machine is a famous one that was originally owned by Carlos Santana, which we already knew, but kind of cool to hear them talking about in an official article like this, and a little bit of the history of this very specific Dumble Overdrive Special. They then go to talk about the settings in detail, discussing each one where the knobs are. You guys can see in this image here very clearly John's Overdrive Special settings, if that's something you're curious in. So I'm just going to skip that because this part gets a little bit touch and go with the translation here to English. They then touch on the Two-Rock Custom Reverb Signature 83. The other amplifier is Two-Rock's Custom Reverb Signature 83, an amplifier brand that is highly evaluated as a so-called Dumble system. Based on the regular version of the Custom Reverb Signature, it was tuned according to John's preferences, such as using specially selected parts in various places, and then the model name 83. It is said to be derived from 83 from Room for Squares being in 2001. In addition, the company's John Mayer signature amplifier is based on this machine. Again, information we kind of already knew, but the fact that they're discussing it and this Custom Reverb Signature number 83 really being the genesis of John's relationship with Two-Rock, it's a very special amplifier that he's been using a lot lately. Very interesting. Instead of his actual John Mayer signature Two-Rocks, we've seen this one coming out a lot on tour, especially for just different Sob Rock promotional performances, the solo tour, John Mayer trio performances as well. This is kind of John's go-to Two-Rock amp, and really cool to see it being brought out for the solo tour in the capacity as a main amplifier at the Blue Note Tokyo show, because during the regular solo tour shows, this amplifier was actually behind the main amp rig, assuming it was serving as a backup amplifier. Who knows if it was being fed into one of the different speaker cabinets that were mic'd on stage. Again, they mentioned that they were experimenting with the choice of one amplifier or both on, so it is possible that that custom reverb signature number 83 was being used actually in a real capacity other than a backup during the performances just kind of behind the main amp rig. So something to note there with the custom reverb signature number 83. Now, the magazine does also go and mention, obviously, that the cabinets are two-rock cabinets as well. These are a bit of the older school style of two-rock cabinets where the logo is smaller and on a metal plate up near the top of the cabinets. They do also mention that there are two 12-inch speakers in each cabinet that are made by two-rock. So really cool to see that John is back to using two-rock speakers in his rig. Makes me really happy that I have a two-rock cabinet with two-rock speakers in it as well. He's been using lots of different speakers. A lot of EVs were coming in and out of the mix, and to see him going back to two-rock speakers is pretty cool. Now, as I already mentioned, that custom reverb signature 83 during the main run of the solo tour was actually in behind the amp rig. We've got a really great shot of that. The other amplifier that John used in combination with the Dumble ODS, at least as part of the amp rig that sat on stage, was his 1964 Fender Reverb. For the majority of the solo tour, that amplifier was actually fed into an Alessandro 212 cabinet, and then that was actually mic'd up, not the JBL speaker that sat in the Reverb. At some point during the fall tour of 2023 for the solo tour, John actually removed the JBL speaker from the Reverb. I have no idea why, but you could clearly see that there's that silver cone through the grill cloth of the Reverb at one point, and then another point, it's just gone. So kind of interesting to note there with the Reverb. Now, when it comes to these speakers in the cabs for the first 3/4 of the solo tour at least, we do have that one shot again where you can see the custom reverb signature number 83 sitting in behind the amp rig. And my friend the London guitarist kind of identified the Alessandro speakers as possibly being EV SR012s. We're not 100% sure that that's actually what they are, but that's what they really look like. And then it looked like there were some sort of Neos in the two-rock cabinet that the ODS sat on. So for that amp rig, at least, when you saw the Alessandro cabinet for the Reverb and then the two-rock cabinet for the ODS, that kind of looked like the speaker combination that we were seeing, but we're not 100% certain as to what is actually in them. Unfortunately, like with the magazine, we got to know what the speakers were in the two new two-rock cabinets, but not for the old amp rig on the solo tour at least. However, for the last bit of the solo tour in 2024 for Europe, John actually went and was using both of these two-rock 212 speaker cabinets that we saw him using for Blue Note Tokyo. However, one of them was just tilted on its side for the Reverb to sit on and then be mic'd through. You can clearly see, again, just when it's sitting sideways there, the little two-rock logo on the plate, kind of near the top end of the speaker cabinet, assuming, again, all two-rock speakers as part of that rig for the 2024 European leg of the solo tour. And that concludes the whole kind of detail around the amp rigs for the solo tour. Again, thank you to Guitar Magazine Japan for just getting this incredible first-hand information, all these images of John's rig. I just absolutely had to touch on this on the channel for you guys. And again, as I actually have the physical magazine, cover some of the details that we have from it, because this is really cool. And for everyone who doesn't get the magazine, it's just nice to share this information and some finer details about the amplifiers and the imagery here. I still have to go over all of the guitars that John used, which they discuss in detail. There's images of every single guitar, all the acoustics, all electric. So I'll be covering all of that on the channel in a video coming up. So if you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Just lets me know you enjoy my videos and I'm doing a good job. Let me know your thoughts on the amp rig, the solo tour as a whole, always in the comments down below. Love seeing that sort of discussion. And until the next video, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.